up, and welcome to the Beneath the Dirt podcast. I'm your host, Rollbone. Thank you for tuning in. This is episode 62. This will be the last podcast of the year, and we're going to be doing the top 20 albums of the year. I've been talking about favorite albums, what's going to make the list, what's not. If you've been listening all year, you might got a little idea of what will be on this list and what will not be on this list. But before we get into the top 20, slow news, end of the year, not much going on. People ain't really doing shit this time of the year. So, nothing to report on really. Little shit here and there. But if you got your eyes to the social medias, ain't no big deal. And let's talk about some honorable mentions that didn't make the top 20 list. Let's talk about D-Loc Ripperside. Came out December of last year. That's one thing you're going to see on this list is a few albums that came out in December of last year. For me, if you put out an album in December, that's not really enough time to gauge if you're going to make album of the year for me. So album of the year really goes from December of last year to November of this year. Anything that came out December this year, not going to be on this list. Possibly could make the list next year. But honorable mention, D-Loc of Cottonmouth Kings. He dropped his second solo album, Ripperside, last December. Really solid project from D-Loc. I liked it better than his first album, Made for Kings, that he dropped on Suburban Noise back in 2010, 2011, some shit like that. Ouija Mac, he dropped in December of last year as well. He dropped Water Damage. I know he dropped Repentance Walk to Wasteland earlier this year, but that album was kind of a miss for me, mainly because of the mix on the album. Vocals, track volumes, just all over the place. Made it pretty much unlistenable aside from a few tracks. But Water Damage, which he put out last December, was really solid. Again, not the greatest mixing, but better than the Walk to Wasteland album that he put out earlier this year. Another honorable mention we got, let's see. Ritz, Put a Crown on It. Ritz finally dropped his first album, Away from Strange Music, just a couple months back. Actually, last month, I believe. Really solid album. Dope shit. Just didn't make the list. Just didn't make it. But really solid album. I suggest you check it out if you didn't. Denzel Curry, Zoo. Denzel Curry's the shit. I fucking loved his album last year, Taboo. That was definitely a top 10 album for me last year. Zoo is a solid album he put out this year. I definitely recommend you check that shit out if you get a chance to do it. Shaggy 2 Dope, Gloomy Sunday. He went on his solo tour earlier this year, dropped the tour exclusive EP, Gloomy Sunday. It's only 4 songs, but it's really fucking solid. Dope shit from Shaggy 2 Dope. Check that shit out. One last honorable mention before we get into this top 20 of 2019. The ROC with his newest EP, Monsters Ain't Real. At first, wasn't really digging it, but I really didn't give it a fair listen. And since then, I've been listening to it. Really solid project. Spitting the wicked shit. Dope Halloween themes from the ROC. So check that shit out. It's on all digitals, all these albums. Apple Music, Spotify, all that shit. But let's get into the top 20. That's why we're all here. So this is the Beneath the Dirt top 20 albums of the year. And coming in at number 20 with DJ Clay, Over the Fear Of, his debut solo album. I don't know if he's put out any work before this, besides the Let Him Bleed mixtapes and shit that he did with Psychopathic. But those were just mixtapes featuring, the entire Psychopathic roster and outside features. But this album right here, really solid project from DJ Clay. I love the production on it. He's killing it with the raps. Sounds nice and clean. If I had one little nitpick, I'd say the volume is a little lower than other albums I listen to, but just turn it up a little bit louder. You don't notice the difference. But you got the title track, Over Fear. Love that shit. My favorite track on here is probably Apologies. You know, I think there's a couple lines in there towards psychopathic. Maybe not, but he's basically apologizing for just doing what he's doing, and he ain't looking back. He's just going for it. Really heavy bass on this album. His voice can kind of get overbearing at times, to me, his voice on certain tracks. But you got shit like Don't Quote Me. Fucking love that track. Super hard. Everybody, Just Like You. Got It Wrong. Fade Away. Just Like You. He's making fun of everybody else, doing other impersonations of different kind of styles of rap. Shit like that. Really funny. Solid album from DJ Clay. From what I understand, this is the first part of, I forget how many he said, 3 maybe? So it's Over the Fear Of, and then we're going to get a second part and then a third part. But if you haven't checked out DJ Clay's album, I definitely recommend it. Coming in at number 20 is Over the Fear Of from DJ Clay. Dope shit. And then, number 19, we got Drive By. 40 OGs, Blaze You Dare Homie, Anybody Killer. They went on the Juggalo Unity Tour earlier this year, and for the tour, they released an exclusive EP, and it's for the OGs. Shit's only 7 songs, 6, not including the outro. You're going to see a few EPs on this list. Some EPs are just shitting on albums this year, and this happens to be one of them. In my opinion, For the OGs is super hard. The best drive-by album that they've done yet. Love the production on here. All songs produced by Godsynth, mixed and mastered by Fritz over there at Magic Ninja. You got Fresh on the Scene. Great opening track from Blaze and ABK. That beat is so fucking hard. A little crazy. More of a mellow track. Black Dickies, just gangsta shit. In the news again, shit gets real. Working Girl. This album, EP rather, really solid from ABK and Blaze. The best work that they both did this year. I don't think Blaze released anything of his own other than a few other singles. ABK put out Tampon Juice, but that was a miss with me. But they both knocked it out of the park with For the OGs. Really solid effort from the both of them. And like I said, in my opinion, the best drive-by project that we've got yet. And then we got coming in at number 18 with Conway, Look at What I Became. This EP / album, I don't know, it's 9 songs, but there's skits. I guess I would call it an EP over an album. But like I said, EPs are shitting on albums this year. Really solid project from Conway. Love that cover art. That's a picture of him when he was still in the hospital after he got shot. Got the cords, the wires all up on him and shit. Solid EP from Conway the Machine. My favorite song on here is Vino D featuring Jim Jones, Dave East, and I fucking love this track. The chorus on it, super dope. Coming from El Camino. Tito's back with West Side Gun, Benny the Butcher. Conway and Benny the Butcher going back and forth. West Side don't even rap on it. He's just talking his shit at the end of it. Black Spoons produced by DJ Muggs. Hard as fuck. That beat's dark, eerie kind of sounding shit. Bell's Palsy. You got the intro talking about him getting shot up. Half of it, solid track. No Woman, No Kids. Just a really solid EP from Conway the Machine. Griselda, man, just killing it this year, 2019. They've been killing it the last few years. But they did their thing this year as well. in 19. And then number 17, we got Suicide Boys, Live Fast, Die Whenever. Again, EPs are shitting on albums this year for me. A lot of EPs on this list is what it is. I love Suicide Boys. This is their collaboration with Travis Barker of Blink 182. I found Suicide Boys probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I've been bumping them ever since. One of my favorite groups that I've found in the last 10 years, easily in the last 5 years. Ruby to Cherry, Scrim. These dudes are super dope, reminiscent of that old school 3-6 Mafia sound. All the tons of 3-6 Mafia samples in their music as well. This shit's super hard. You got Monkey of Korn on 3 of the tracks on here. He's on Killing Two Birds with 22 Stones, Don't Trust Anyone, and Individuality was So Last Year. This whole EP minus the last song, Nothing Left, is so hard. And even though I don't like that last song, those other 5 songs are so fucking intense, so dope, that it's got to come in at 17 on the top 20. This shit is so hard. My favorite track on here, probably Individuality was So Last Year or Don't Trust Anyone, both featuring Monkey of Korn. The heavy-ass guitars, Killing Two Birds with 22 Stones. I love how they start that shit out just super heavy. Love the raps on here. Love how Scrim isn't always doing that deep voice anymore, but he's got the, he's more life, more energetic in his raps now. Could be because he's sober now. I know he's been not doing drugs for a minute now, so salute to him for that, and Ruby, and anybody else out there, if you're listening. If you kicked any kind of habit this year, drugs, whatnot, alcohol, shout out to you. Keep up the good work. And coming in at number 16, we got the mumble rapper GOAT. I was just talking about him on last week's podcast. This dude is the GOAT of all mumble rap. Young Thug with his new album, So Much Fun, that he dropped, I want to say in August. This is his best project since Jeffrey, the one where he's wearing the dress on the cover that he dropped a few years back. This album really was fun. Called it So Much Fun. It was a fun project. Really dope shit. He just dropped the deluxe version last week, but I prefer the OG over it. My favorite tracks on here, Ecstasy with Machine Gun Kelly. Not the biggest Machine Gun Kelly fan, but I appreciate what he does. Love that track. Hot featuring Gunna. At one point, you could ask Siri on the iPhone, what is the number 1 song in the world? And Siri would play Hot featuring Gunna. Love that track. Surf featuring Gunna. Gunna's the shit. He's another little mumble rap dude under Young Thug's wing, doing his thing. Bad, Bad, Bad featuring Lil Baby. Fucking dope track right there. What's the Move featuring Lil Uzi Vert. Love that track. I Bought Her featuring Lil Duke. A lot of my favorite tracks on this album are featuring other people, but it doesn't take away from what Young Thug did on this project. Circle of Bosses with Quavo. Really hard. Love that shit. Mannequin Challenge featuring Juice WRLD. R.I.P. to Juice WRLD. This album, like I said, his best project in my opinion since Jeffrey. Love this album. Really good to see Young Thug getting into his bag with this project. I know he's got a new one coming up soon. He's already talking about releasing another album. Looking forward to that from Young Thug. Really dope shit. Coming in at number 15, we got Kung Fu Vampire with Come Dawn. Coming in at number 15, his brand new album that he dropped this year. I don't have the hard copy for this one, but I streamed the fuck out of this album this year. Front to back, 15 songs, coming in at 50 minutes. Not one bad song on this album, if you ask me. Love the production. Everything sounds nice, clean. Shit hits really hard in the whip. Solid project from the vampire himself. Kung Fu Vampire, the opening track, 1986. You know, this whole album's kind of got like an 80s vibe. You can see on the cover, it's like on some Miami Vice type shit. Colors like that. My favorite song on this album is My Turn, featuring X-Rated, who just recently got released from prison after serving like 20 fucking years or something crazy like that. But My Turn featuring X-Rated, super hard. Love the hook on there. I think it's Kung Fu singing the hook on there. On some auto-tune shit. They both go in, basically on Trolls. Love that album. Love that song, rather. Really dope shit. Love It First Bite. Funky shit. Love it. The King featuring Gorilla Voltage. Gorilla Voltage's last song, last feature we'll ever get. Don't know, but seems like it so far. That song's hard as fuck. Trapped in Hell with Futuristic. Dark as fuck. Talking about suicide. Just love the hook to that shit. Kung Fu Vampire really did his thing on here. You could tell he took his time. Everything's layered perfectly. The way the album rides out, so fucking dope. Tearing Up Your City featuring Dirtbag Dan. I know we just dropped the video for that recently. That shit is hard as fuck as well. Be Alright is another one of my absolute favorite songs on this album, featuring 1 Ton of Potluck. I felt like they should have ended the album with this song, but doesn't really much matter. This is a solid song. Love that shit. Weep in Silence, R.I.P. to everybody. Just kind of talking about people who have died. And then you got Hologram, the posse cut featuring Buckshot, Joker, bunch of other motherfuckers. Really dope posse cut right there from Kung Fu Vampire. And then he cuts out, or ends the album with Neighborhood, featuring cuts by DJ Clay. They both dropped albums the same day. Both were hard as fuck. That was a single he released a while back before the album came out. Really dope project from Kung Fu Vampire. Come Dawn. I highly recommend you check this shit out. You know, if any album on this list, really, if you ain't heard it, I suggest you check it, peep it. In my opinion, these albums are really dope. And then we got coming in at number 14, and I know I'm going to catch flack for this one. Coming in at number 14, people are going to say, why you have it so low on your list? Fearless Fred Fury from Insane Clown Posse coming in at number 14. Solid album. This is a great comeback album, if you ask me, by ICP. They had put out The Marvelous Missing Link in like 2015, and that was just a solid miss with a lot of people. But this album right here was a great comeback for ICP. Production from Seven, Mike P's on here, Devereaux got production on here. I'd like to see them get back with Mikey Clark at some point, because that's when ICP is really at their best, is when they work with Mikey Clark. But for not working with him on this album is really dope, really solid. Love Fearless Fred Fury. Favorite song on here, if I had to pick just one, would probably be... Actually, it would be Fury. Fury is my favorite ICP song in the last 10 years. So, easily, Fury is my favorite song on this album. Love that shit. I love how they added the drums to it from when they first originally released it. Really dope. Love that song. Rapping their asses off on there. Great production on there. Can't remember off the top of my head who did production on that song. Other great standout songs. West Verner Ave. Solo Shaggy 2 Dope. Love that shit. Really hard. I would love to see a video for that song. I keep saying it. I know I've said it a few times on this podcast, other shows that I've been guest on. Would love a video for West Verner Ave. Seriously hilarious. Although it has corny fucking lines in it, it's still a solid track. Game Over, produced by Devereaux. Love the samples on there, video game samples. Hard as fuck. Night of Red Rum, continuing the Night of series. Love that shit as well. 2 tracks on here that I still don't like. And if they would have removed these 2 tracks, this album probably would have been higher on the list. They could have taken a couple tracks from Flip the Rat and put it on here. And shout out to Flip the Rat. That album is dope as 2. That deserves an honorable mention. But the 2 tracks on here that could have got cut, in my opinion, are Low. That sample has just been overused, overdone. I don't want to hear it anymore. And Hothead. That song is just not good, in my opinion, at all. Other little nitpicks for this album. They should have ended the album with Freedom. I understand that they put I Like It Rough as the last song, and then they had the Beware. This is the most disturbing song ICP's ever recorded. But to end a Joker's card with a song like that made no sense to me. Would have made a lot more sense if they ended the album with Freedom. I do like I Like It Rough. That is a dope track. It would have been better if it was just in the middle of the album somewhere. But nitpicks aside, really solid album from ICP. Fearless Fred Fury was a great, great comeback album for ICP. And then coming in at number 13, we got Emotional Oranges. I should have made the disclaimer before I started the list. This isn't just going to be a hip-hop rap list. It's going to be all over the place. Got a couple albums outside of hip-hop and rap. This is one of them with Emotional Oranges. If you listen to the Joe Budden podcast, you've heard Emotional Oranges. I'm pretty sure Rory is the manager of them. He put them on. It's an R&B group. It's a guy and a girl. Don't know their names. They haven't even shown pictures of themselves. There's no images of them. 8 songs, 27 minutes. If you fuck with R&B, I recommend checking out this album/EP. I'm not huge into R&B, but goddamn, this shit is dope. Tracks like Motion, Personal. My favorite song on here is Someone Else. Love that shit. Built That Way is really solid. Unless You're Drowning. Corners of My Mind. The live instrumentation on this album, the guitars, drumming, shit like that. Really solid project from Emotional Oranges. The EP is called The Juice Volume 1, if I didn't mention that already. Really solid. They just dropped The Juice Volume 2, and it went a more of a poppy kind of route, where this is just really sticking to like that really smooth R&B kind of sound. Like I said, I'm not huge into R&B, so I really can't compare it to much. But I love this EP. I played the fuck out of it this past summer. Really dope project from Emotional Oranges. Funny name for a group, too. Like, let's not fucking front. That's a funny-ass name for a group, Emotional Oranges. And let's get to number 12, Slipknot. We Are Not Your Kind. The only rock album making the list for 2019. To be honest, it's the only rock album that I listened to that came out this year. Not much rock, metal, whatever the fuck comes out anymore that I listen to. But this is one album I did check out. I caught flack for it when I first listened to it when it dropped because I said it was soft. I didn't like it. And then really what it boils down to is I can't listen to metal music when it's still summer out, still sunny, the vibes are good. It ain't dark, cold, and depressing, shit like that. I gave it another spin about a month ago, and I've been bumping it ever since. Metal in the wintertime, fall, wintertime for me is just where it's at. That's when I vibe out to metal now. But this album right here, We Are Not Your Kind, solid project. Not as good as Point Five, The Gray Chapter, which they released 4 or 5 years back. Real dope shit. The single Unsainted is actually probably my favorite song on this album. I love that song. Really dope shit. And then you got, even though it's kind of like an intro, not really a real song, but Death Because of Death. Love that shit. Really dope. Neo Forte, really pop kind of sounding, with that hook, but really dope track. Critical Darling is hard as fuck. Love that shit. Liar's Funeral, dark as shit. Angry as hell. Love it. I love the new masks that they're rocking with this album as well. I got the hard copy right here. Love their new masks. Love the look. I love how they always switch it up with every new album that they put out. Orphan, really dope track. Solway Firth, the last song on the album. This album is not soft. Like I said, when it first came out, album is not soft at all. This album is hard as fuck. Love it. Corey Taylor is one of my favorite vocalists, period, singers, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But Slipknot, We Are Not Your Kind, coming in at number 12, deservingly so, in my opinion. If you're into metal, into rock, I recommend checking this album out. And then, coming in at number 11, we got another EP, Benny the Butcher, The Plugs I Met. Coming in at number 11, this EP, solid as fuck. Not as good as Tana Talk 3, but I don't know if he'll ever be able to put out something as good as Tana Talk 3. But still a solid effort from Benny nonetheless. I got a hard copy right here. This is the first mass-produced Griselda release. Like, you can still get this on Amazon, FYE.com, shit like that. Fat Beats. 7 songs. Features galore on this EP. Only one song doesn't have a fucking feature on here. Solid as hell, though. Every song, not one skipper. Every song's banger. Crowns for Kings featuring Black Thought. That's just a clinic on rapping right there. Like, Black Thought is the shit. He put out a couple of my favorite projects last year. But that's just a rapping clinic on Crowns for Kings. Sunday School with 38 Spesh and Jadakiss. Hard as fuck. Just drug raps. Jadakiss. Still potent though, even though I did a 2-step on it. Like, that line is insane. Dirty Harry featuring RJ Payne. And Conway the Machine, produced by Derringer and Beat Butcher. Derringer is the shit. He did the whole new Griselda album. He's been fucking with Griselda for a while. Love that. 18 Wheeler featuring Pusha T, one of my absolute favorite songs of the year. Love that shit. Benny and Pusha both go in. Dope beat from DJ Shay. And another, probably my second favorite song on here, 5 to 50, featuring India, produced by Alchemist. Love that song. Love this whole EP. Really dope shit from Benny the Butcher. Excuse me while I take a sip of my water. And then we are down to the top 10 of Beneath the Dirt. Top 20 albums of 2019. And putting this whole list together was really fucking difficult. Not gonna lie. I was originally only gonna do a top 10. I had made my top 10 list. And then I put it out there. I asked everybody, you, the people listening, you watching, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes or whatnot. People said they wanted a top 20, so I made it a top 20. Made it a little bit more difficult, but this top 10 was really hard to put together. But there's got to be a top 10, and coming in at number 10, we got A La Zulilou, Church of Zul. Once again, another EP making its way onto the list. Solid follow-up from A La Zulilou to the Almighty which they released last year, which was my favorite underground album last year, second favorite album overall of last year. This EP is hard as fuck. If you have the hard copy, it's really dope how the track listing reads out. It's basically a one sentence. Welcome in the Church of Zul. We are one. Pray to the tomb of the black tongue, the goddamned Zuligans. That's the track list. Love how they put this album together, EP rather. The production on here was done by a Zombie Aristocrats. Really dope production from Zombie Aristocrats, Cannibal Beats, DJ Shakes, and Billy Obey. But solid. Favorite song on here is probably Pray. Love that shit. But every song on here, even Zuligans, which is more of a lighthearted track celebrating the fans of a la Zulilu, Zuligans, really dope. The Goddamned is hard. To the Tomb of the Black Tongue, We Are One. They played that live at Axmas earlier this month. Really solid EP. Definitely looking forward to the next full-length album from a la Zulilu, and mega hyped for Venomous 5 with Twisted. I know they got songs in the can, already done, recorded for Venomous 5. I just hope they make it happen in 2020. So number 10, a la Zulilu, The Church of Zul. Number 9, another EP, Ill Bill, Stu Bangers with Cannibal Hulk. This was Ill Bill's first solo project in a couple years. His last solo project that he put out before this was Septagram, I believe. If I'm wrong, correct me. But this was his comeback, not comeback, but his first project since Septagram. Stu Bangers did the production on here. Stu Bangers is so dope on the production tip. His sampling, his drums just hit super hard. Love this EP. Features from Gore-Tex, now known as Lord Goat, of Nonfiction. Slain is on this EP. Vinny Paz, Snack the Ripper. Favorite songs on here, the title track Cannibal Hulk. Love that shit. Love the synth that Stu Bangers threw in there. Super hard. War Hulk with Gore-Tex and Slain is hard as fuck. Russo's on the Bay with Vinny Paz. Love that shit. Shiva Call, Hulk Meat. The artwork is so dope as well. Drawn by Scam 2. Just this whole project, from the artwork to the production to Bill's rapping. Bill is like, he just sounds hungry as fuck on this EP. Super hard. It's very short. It's like 23 minutes, I want to say. But goddamn, from front to back, it's just hard as hell, intense, brings you on a nice little fucking journey through the Cannibal Hulk. I hope we get a Cannibal Hulk 2 from Ill Bill and Stu Bangers. This EP is a fucking banger. Definitely check that shit out if you ain't checked that shit out. If you just love raw, boom bap, underground, New York style hip hop, check that shit out. Hard than a motherfucker. Coming in at number 8, we got The Dirtball with Skull Hollow. The Dirtball dropped his first solo album since the whole fucking debacle and collapse of Suburban Noise, and him with Cottonmouth Kings going out doing United Family, that shit falling apart, Daddy X disappearing off the face of the earth. He dropped Skull Hollow this year. Believe it was in February. It was an early release. 19 songs. This is a full-length album, without a doubt. Only a couple features on this album. Mostly Dirtball on here. Production by Mike Kumagai, who did most of the old school Cottonmouth King shit. You know, from High Society all the way up till fucking, I can't remember the album that they put out on United Family with the Cottonmouth Kings crest on it. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but he did most of the Cottonmouth Kings production. Very solid album from the Dirtball. I bumped the fuck out of this for a good 2 months when it first came out. Favorite song on here for me, Dr. Gloom. The bass on that shit is so heavy. So heavy. Love the bass on Dr. Gloom. Shroomed 911. Very dope. It ain't a Dirtball album if you ain't got a fucking mushroom song on there. Love that shit. Jeepers Creepers. Classic Kumagai production. Dirtball raps. Love that shit. Love is a Beast. More of a mellow kind of track from Dirtball. A little bit of harmonizing on there. No Coming Down featuring Dizzy Wright, Marlon Asher. Again, it wouldn't be a Dirtball album if you ain't got a weed track on there. And you got to get Dizzy Wright on there. Only makes sense. Hate Water. Super hard, grimy, gutter shit. Love it. Pop Go With It. Kind of a fun track. Finally Over is a great way to end the album. Talking about how the Cottonmouth King shit fell apart, how he won't trust record labels, shit like that. He's going to do it on his own from here on out. He dropped this on his own label, Throttle House Music. Solid album from Dirtball. Definitely deserving of that number 8 spot on this top 20 list. And then we got an album that came out December of last year. Conway the Machine. Everybody Is Food Too. This album is hard as fuck. In my opinion, I mean, it's up for debate which one's the best out of the series, but this one is my favorite out of the series by just a little bit over Everybody Is Food 1. But this EP album, rather, is hard as fuck. Love it from beginning to end. Really dope. Great way to open the album with Fentanyl. Love that shit. Mayblock. Painkillers is one of my favorite tracks on here, but my absolute favorite song on here, Hide the Body, featuring Benny the Butcher. They're back and forth. Everybody praises West Side Gun and Conway's back and forth, but Benny and Conway's back and forth ain't nothing to be fucking slept on either. Love that shit. Cocaine Paid. Talking about cocaine paid his mama's bills. Just grimy gutter shit. Overdose. And then you got more lighthearted, more meaningful song like Be Proud of Me. But it's still hard as fuck. Not to be slept on. Love the cover art. I love everything, most of what Griselda's doing. These dudes are legit. They're the truth. They're just they pull no punches. It's just grimy gutter street raps, drug raps. Love this album. Everybody Is Food Too. Like I said, my favorite out of the Everybody Is Food series. I just picked up all 3. I got the hard copy of Everybody Is Food 2 right here. But really solid shit. Love the production on this album. All the production that Griselda does is just so hard. Grimy gutter shit. Again, just keep repeating myself, but it is what it is. Shit is super hard. I love it. And then, coming in at number 6, we got Slain with One Day. This was a late entry into the top 20, and he made it to the number 6 on this list. In my opinion, this is his best work. I don't know if it's my favorite work that he's done yet, but this is without a doubt the best work that Slain has done. 12 tracks. It's a full-length album. Really dope. Love the features on here. Simple artwork, but it gets the job done. My favorite song on this album is Broken Toys featuring Apathy and Locksmith. That's just a rhyming clinic on there. Hard as fuck. Love the production. And most of the production on this album, minus, I think it was It Catches You, was produced by The Archetype. The Archetype killed the production on One Day. the album by Slain. This shit is so hard. Love this album. The opening track, Redemption, great way to open the album. Time Is Now featuring Right Hook. Still Got My Gun featuring Ill Bill, Vinny Paz, and Right Hook. Right Hook on those choruses, super dope. Ill Bill, Vinny Paz, Slain just killing it on the verses. Trick the Trap. Love the beat on that shit. Reminds me of some old school like 92, 93 shit. Love it. Another one of my favorite tracks on here is The Feeling I Get. You got like some like guitar in there. That's just the feeling I get. Hard as fuck from Slain. Archetype killed the production on here. Late entry into the list, but well deserving. His best album, like I said, in my opinion. Slain coming in at number 6. And then we got the top 5. Putting this top 5 together was the hardest part of this list. Hard as hell. But let's get right into it with number 5, Gorilla Voltage, Gods and Claws. This album dropped earlier this year. I want to say January, possibly February. Very early in the year. I got the hard copy of it. They're broken up now. I felt like they were just starting to get into a groove with this project right here. They were really starting to... The chemistry was there. The production was there. Most of the production on this album was handled by Seven, who does a lot of strange music. He does shit for Twisted. This album, I played the fuck out of solid for like 2 months, and I still go back to it. Really dope. Nice, crisp, clean sound. Love the artwork. It sucks that they're broken up now. Like I said, they were just getting into the groove. But my favorite song on this album is probably Good Die Young featuring Phil Labonte of All That Remains. Love that track. I believe it was one of the singles that they released for the album. Love that shit. But you got Handful of Matches to open the album. Very solid track to open the album. Heavy as fuck. Screaming on here. From what I understand, both these dudes are metal dudes. And it makes sense why they incorporate the screaming into their music. Guitars and shit. Ape Shit Part 2. Warzone Dome. Another one of my favorite tracks on here. Rocks in My Sock. Kind of on that Bay Area funky kind of fucking shit. Love that track. Rocks in My Socks. Spaz Out. Talking about video games and how kids just spaz out if they don't get their video games. Love that shit. Mad Scientist featuring Kung Fu Vampire. Really dope. No Rivalry. Hate Fuck. Little love song to end the album. But great project from Gorilla Voltage. Great production from Seven. Sucks we'll never get another album from these guys. They didn't even do a video for any of the songs on here. They were probably broken up before the album even came out, for all we know. But very deserving of that number 5 spot. Gorilla Voltage with Gods and Claws. Coming in at number 4, we got A Boogie with the Hoodie. This will probably be surprising. You might not even know who this dude is. A Boogie with the Hoodie is a kid coming out of New York. Kind of doing that mumble rap kind of style. Heavy auto-tune. Not for everybody. Kind of R&B, but not. Love this album. 20 songs coming in at just over an hour on here. I played the shit out of it. This is another one that dropped in December of last year. But man, this album is so dope. Don't know who did any of the production. There's no hard copy option available. It's only available digitally. But if you like mumble rap kind of shit, heavy auto-tune style, you'll fuck with this album. Really dope. Voices in My Head, great way to start out the album. Favorite songs on here for me, probably Demons and Angels featuring Juice WRLD. Love that song. Great song. Savage is another one of my absolute favorites on this album. Look back at it. Um, what else? Need a Best Friend. Love that shit. The Reaper. The Reaper and OD go back and forth as my two favorite songs on this album. And then you got Billie Jean on here, Pull Up featuring Nav, Uptown Bust Down featuring P&B Rock. I never heard of A Boogie with the Hoodie. I probably heard it somebody talking good about it on a podcast, praising the album. I heard it kind of late. I want to say March, April, a few months after it was released. And this album is just really solid. If you like that auto-tune mumble rap kind of style, I definitely recommend you check that shit out. Very dope project from A Boogie with the Hoodie. And then we got the top three. Man, this top three. Any one of these albums could be my favorite album of the year, depending on my mood. But there can only be one. And coming in at number 3 is Griselda with What Would Sheen Gun Do, dropped on Black Friday this year. Another late entry into the top 20, but very, very well deserving of being at number 3 on this list. Produced by Beat Butcher and Derringer. This album, their major label debut on Shady Records, did not disappoint at all. You got the intro with Raekwon, just bigging up Griselda, just getting you hyped for the album. Raekwon is that dude. As much as I would have loved a verse from Ray on this album, just him doing his talking in the beginning made it okay. Set the album off perfect. And then it went right into Chef Dreads, one of the fucking hardest tracks on this album. Just back and forth. This whole album is pretty much all back and forth. Or verse after verse. You know, no hooks really. Chef Dreads, hard as fuck. My favorite track on this album. It's a toss-up between Cruiserweight Coke and Scotty's. Cruiserweight Coke is so fucking dope. Benny the Butcher Man. He's becoming one of my favorite rapper. I love Royce the 5'9", but Benny Butcher is right on the heels of Royce. This dude is fucking murderous on the mic. All three of them killed it on this album. Conway, Westside as well. But goddamn, Benny Butcher's verse on Cruiserweight Coke is so fucking dope. Scotty's as well. They all killed that shit. City on the Map, Conway and 50 Cent. It's the only track that doesn't feature Westside, all three members of Griselda. It's just Conway and 50 Cent. 50 Cent back on his bullshit. I love 50, old 50, new 50. Anytime he drops, definitely checking for that feature. I love the Bang remix that was featuring Eminem, although I don't like Eminem's verse on it. Westside's 4 bars, and then you got Benny dropping his verse. Fucking definitely make up for M's verse on there, as does Conway's. Love that track. But then you got Scotty's, like I said, Dr. Bird's, May Store, front to back. This album is super dope. The production from Derringer and Beat Butcher, grimy, gutter shit. Definitely makes you want to just fight somebody at certain points. I've been bumping the fuck out of this album the last month. Number 3, definitely well deserving. Love that album from Griselda. Shout out to Benny, Conway, Westside, Derringer, and Beat Butcher. And shout out to Eminem for recognizing this Griselda shit and putting them on and not making them sacrifice their sound for their debut, for their major label debut. And if you've been listening to my podcast, I've been talking about 2 albums all year. 2 albums of what could possibly be the number 1 album of the year. But like I said, there can only be one. Coming into number 2, we got Tech 9 with Nina. I got the hard copy of it. This is Tech Nine's best album since um, something else. In the easily his best album in the past 5 years, and it's becoming one of my all-time favorite Tech Nine albums. I absolutely love this shit, front to back. There's not many Tech Nine albums, in my opinion, now. Last week I asked if he had any classic albums. So, in my opinion, he doesn't really have albums that you could just play front to back and not skip a song. This album right here, though, you don't have to skip a song on this album at all. Love it from the intro to the last song. Lord of Weird. He's talking about how when he had the spiked red hair, he's painting his face, wearing the masks, doing all this weird shit. Everybody's calling him a devil worshiper. You look at rappers now, motherfuckers are dressing in dresses, wearing women's clothes, dyeing their hair, piercings everywhere, doing whatever they want, and it's okay. But Tech Nine definitely, in my opinion, and I agree with him, he is the Lord of Weird. Love that shit. Favorite song on here, if I had to pick just one, would probably be F.U., also known as Easier for You, featuring Chris Calico and Jelly Roll. God damn, that's such a dope song. And that really put me onto Jelly Roll as well. But fuck, man, that song is so dope. Other standout tracks on here: Hit the Ground Running, featuring JL King ISO. Greenlit, featuring King ISO and Maze 301. Greenlit is so fucking hard. Love that shit. Chuki Fever, that brings back those KOD vibes. I did a whole review on this album earlier this year. You can go back, find that episode, listen to it. Other standout tracks: You Line, FTI 2.0, great follow-up to the first track, even though there was technically already a FTI 2 with Cottonmouth Kings, but I guess we'll just ignore that one. I don't remember with C-Mob, HOB, Active, politically, on his political shit on Active. Love that. He did the whole cathartic video series to go along with this album. I believe there was 2 seasons to it, and he's going to continue it with his new album, Enter Fear. Everything he did with this album was great. From the videos, I fucking love every video that he did. Every song on this album. I Caught Crazy, another one of my favorites. Man, the more I talk about it now, I want to listen to it. And it definitely solidifies the fact that this is becoming one of my all-time favorite Tech Nine albums. I love this album. If you've been put off by Tech Nine because of Planet, because of The Storm, and the Strange Elation CDs or albums, because those were rushed. In my opinion, they sounded rushed. He was putting out too much music. I still think he's doing that. But fuck, it sounds like he took his time with this one, even though he really didn't. Really solid album from Tech Nine with Nina. And that means there can only be one. And if you've been listening to this podcast, you already know Jim Jones with El Capo, produced by the Heatmakers. I never listened to a Jim Jones album. That's false. I listened to Talent Wasted last year that he put out, which was a really dope album. Put me on to Jim Jones, and when I found out he was putting this album out, I was like, damn, Talent Wasted was dope. Heatmakers production's dope. And if they're producing this whole album, I'm definitely checking it out. I don't I don't have anything to compare to his old shit because I never listened to it. But Album of the Year 2020, Jim Jones, El Capo, produced by Heatmakers. Front to back, not one bad song on here. Summertime Vibes, I still bump it dead in the middle of the winter, and it still fucking goes hard, still feels great listening to it. Love how he starts out the album with Crystal Occasions, kind of a celebration type track. favorite songs on here. My absolute favorite song on here. Not only is it my favorite song on the album, but it's my favorite song all year. State of the Union featuring Rick Ross. That shit is so hard. Love the production on there. Rick Ross's feature is so dope. I love Rick Ross as a feature rapper. Jim Jones kills it as well. Other standout tracks, NYC featuring Fat Joe. Not a huge Fat Joe fan. Never really listened to his music, to be honest, but he kills the feature on there. Love the production on there. Pity in the Summer featuring Cameron. Cameron's new album's really dope as well. Shout out to Purple Haze too. But Pity in the Summer, love the way the beat drops out for the beginning of the verses. Drums kick in. Really dope production from Heatmakers. My Era featuring Mano and Drama. Love that shit. Mama, I Made It with Cameron. To Whom It May Concern, another one of my absolute favorites featuring Cameron, Benny the Butcher, and Conway the Machine. Just love Jim Jones' emotion on that track too. The way his voice is kind of cracking at the end of his voice, kind of fades out. Really dope. Sports Cars featuring Currency. Bread Right featuring Trav. Like I said, front to back banger from Jim Jones, produced by Heatmakers, and in my opinion, at least for me, this album will go down as a classic. It has all the makings of a classic, from the way the songs are structured. Jim Jones just killing it with the raps. Love Heatmakers' production, the sampling that they do. Just great album from Jim Jones, and very deserving of that number one spot, if you ask me. And that's it. That's going to wrap it up for my top 20 albums of 2019. I want to thank you for tuning in. And that's going to wrap it up for me. I'm Ron Bone of Beneath the Dirt Podcast. And until next time, I'm out. Peace.